What's happening, gamers? Thanks for hanging out with Chris at telesplashgaming today. It is much appreciated. And I used to go around and I used to troll the Sega Genesis, saying it was overrated. Ooh, what a burn. Sick burns, bro. But I've only gotten smarter. I've only got more and more of an appreciation for pretty much all consoles at this point, and the Genesis is one of them. If you're a collector for it, there is a bunch of games that you probably need to add to your collection that might be rare, that might be expensive. And I'm going to give you 10 games today on the Sega Genesis that are rare. They're expensive. A couple of these are going to be holy grail items that I'm not even sure you would actually need to complete a full Genesis collection, but they're definitely worth looking at. Maybe some of these you have lying around from your childhood. That would be nice. All right, let's get right into it. 10 games on the Sega Genesis. They're going to cost you some cash. We're going to start off with one of the most expensive games and work our way down, and that's a game that I'm not even sure is considered a Genesis game necessary to complete a collection because it's Blockbuster World Championships 2. This ranges anywhere from $3,000 to like $10,000, and as you can tell, it's a World Championship cart created exclusively for Blockbuster by Acclaim that only had a couple games. NBA Jam, a watered down version mind you, and Judge Dredd, and it was just a competition cart. The games aren't really worth buying for $3,000 to $10,000 when you can buy them for way cheaper open stock, but this is one of those holy grail items that was only created for Blockbuster stores. You could do it regionally, I believe, and then you came together and it was supposed to be a big end tournament to win all the money, all your Sega gear, so you walk around with your Sonic backpack on afterwards saying you're the greatest gamer around. But the other thing that makes this extremely rare is that I believe Blockbuster requested all these copies be destroyed when the competition was over. So not only was it already a small production run anyway because it was a small competition, but then most of these were probably destroyed. So to find one now is legit holy grail. You're not going to probably find one in an attic anywhere, which would be amazing if you did. I mean, come on, people do it all the time. You see Nintendo World Championships pop up randomly, but this one's pretty rare. Definitely a holy grail item, and I don't really think it's even considered a game necessary to complete a Genesis collection, but it is a holy grail item for Genesis collectors. So I got to get through the Blockbuster World Championships. Before Ring Fit and Wii Fit became a thing, there was Outback Joey. Yep, the Genesis was revolutionary in the exercise equipment for gaming. Outback Joey had motion controls and a heartbeat sensor that allowed you to make your kangaroo move faster. Now talk about archaic stuff, but take a look at this. This is a unique setup that wasn't just a game, it was like a full-on peripheral. It added like a 32X, a Sega CD, plus Outback Joey would have been the greatest thing of all time to see connected to your Sega Genesis. But this was revolutionary at the time. I don't know how good the game was. All I know is that it's freaking expensive. It also can go for up to $10,000. It really depends. Do you have a complete in box? Do you have just the game, which is worth a couple thousand on its own? Do you have a few of the peripherals? It's one of those hard ones to really nail down exactly how much it's worth because each piece adds so much value to this. If you have it complete in box with everything though, you're talking $10,000 for the most part, which is a lot of money for a game that really didn't get played, really wasn't that great, and most people probably wouldn't even look at back in the day. And now, if you have Outback Joey, must be nice. Must be nice. Legend of Zelda was groundbreaking for the NES, and afterwards many games try to replicate the success of that. Dragon Warrior did a really good job. There's other games created by Nintendo, by Rare, by everybody out in the market making these top-down RPGs. And the Genesis had quite a few of their own, and one was Crusader of Senti. Senti, I believe? This game is a rare one because it is one of those Zelda clones. Now here's the deal. This game was actually really well received, and it goes $415 loose to around $1,400 complete for the game, which is absolutely amazing. It definitely has those vibes with the dungeons, it has the sword, but this is kind of a little bit different in terms of the fact that you use your deceased father's sword to fight off monsters and solve puzzles, and yeah, okay, it sounds pretty similar to Zelda, but there is one additional gameplay element. Corona, ironically, the main protagonist, loses his ability to communicate with humans. So what does he do? No big deal. He just pulls out that new sense of his that would make perfect sense. You start communicating with animals. Okay, cool. Now Coronavirus can talk to all these different animals. He can go around. He uses them as his pets, as his companions throughout the RPG. This is actually a really cool game that got really good reviews for the most part. But again, when there's all these Zelda clones, there's just something about games falling through the cracks, and I believe this was one of them. But if you have this, even a loose copy, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So if you have Crusaders lying around, put it in. enjoy it, and then maybe think about putting it in a plastic case and keeping it in a little safe or something somewhere safe, because it's worth some cash. And I want you to keep everything protected, all right? Next up is one that's not just a game, it's a collector's edition, which is actually pretty rare for back in the day for the 16-bit, the 32-bit, the 8-bit. Wasn't a lot of collector's edition stuff. But back in the day, QVC, yep, the TV shopping network, had SpiderMan Maximum Carnage as a collector's edition. I don't know how many copies there were. Not that many. And it basically was the game, which is really just loose, like 20 bucks. But then it came with a cool box. It came with the comic book in which the game is inspired by. It came with lapel pins. And that's about it. Wasn't a whole lot to it. But the point is, since it was a collector's edition, you had to get it through QVC, so you better hope grandma or your mom was watching QVC that day and decided to pick it up for you. Because now it's worth about $384 to $415. Not a big difference between just loose and complete. I guess because you need the whole thing complete to make it work. If you have just the game, it's only worth $20. Which again, if you want to play Spider-Man Maximum Carnage, you're better off just buying the game loose. But if you're a collector, this is one of those things that'd be really cool to have on the shelf. But again, I don't think this is necessary to actually complete a Genesis collection, because you can buy the game loose. But to have this, be pretty cool. And the box is pretty awesome, so I don't know, I'm all about it. And Carnage and Venom are like the best. I love Venom, but Carnage is just next level. So if you find this out about, or you've seen this, or even know somebody with it, this is definitely one of those really, really rare kind of holy grail games for the Sega Genesis collectors out there. Next up is a shmup. Ooh, I love the word shmup. You are a mech pilot defending the Earth from a supercomputer who wants to destroy the Earth. Imagine that. Now, not the most polarizing story, but as a kid you didn't care. You wanted to get in, you want to play the game, you want to blow stuff up, see aliens get taken out, mechs, computers, whatever it is you're fighting, you want to see it get blown up. And this bullet hell was no different. It was praised for its graphics, its color, and it got pretty good reviews. The problem is, this whole generation of consoles was dominated by shmups and beat-em-ups, and you really need to do something special to stand out, and unfortunately Musha was just kind of caught in the middle of the pack. Wasn't a bad game, but just didn't really get the praise that it needed to become a high-selling game. Well now, guess what? It's worth $400 loose, and $700 if you manage to keep that clamshell case and the booklet around. So if you have this, good on you. If you're a collector going for a full set, good luck on you. The Genesis actually still has people making games for it, which is really cool. And some of these games are worth a lot of money. Games like Paprium right now is worth a lot. But I don't know if Paprium is going to hold its value in the next few years, so I don't include it on the list. But a game like Legend of Wukong, that's worth about $136, $140 loose, and only a few dollars more boxed, is one that was a Taiwan-only release back in '96. But then over the years, somehow, somebody didn't give up on the dream of bringing it to America, and it finally got a release in 2008, which is absolutely insane. Now, this game was selling for $40 per copy, so the $140 that it's worth now is not too shabby. But it was the second game for the Sega Genesis to be commercially released in the United States since 1998. Now there's games getting released all the time. It features 6 chapters, animated cutscenes, battery backup saves, and the reviews were actually mostly positive, which you'd expect because no one's going to port a game that was absolute trash back in the late 90s to the Genesis in 2008 when it's going to be a hard sell. So Legend of Wukong is one that actually has been out for about 12 years here. It was very late after the Genesis kind of stopped, but again, people are fanboys and they still make Genesis games. But this is one that actually has held its value really well and only gone up in value since its 2008 release. So Legend of Wukong, if you were lucky enough to get it, cool. El Viento. I just like saying it, that's why I included it on this list, but it is pretty rare and it is quite expensive. Now El Viento gives you the task of holding on to these 5 bladed boomerangs with an unlimited supply of them, and you're just going through, side-scrolling, throwing out your boomerangs, killing baddies, and taking out people. It's worth about $90 loose, but complete is $215. Now, it has one of the weirdest things. It has the reviews that are the most mixed I've seen on any of the games here. Some places are giving it like a B+, an A-. Oh, it's a great game. Then other places are saying this game is absolute trash at D. I don't know. I haven't actually played it yet. All I know is that it's kind of expensive to take a shot in the dark and go, well, I hope I like it. So maybe it's kind of polarizing. Maybe the gameplay is hit and miss. I don't know. Might have to emulate this one and try it out because the reviews are literally from D's to A's, which is absolutely weird because most games are usually fairly consistent with how people feel about them. But El Viento, pretty rare game. If you got it, just say the name a few times. El Viento. El Viento. I just like it. At 85 bucks loose and around 105 complete as of right now, Splatterhouse II is a rare game on the Sega Genesis and kind of expensive. Now you think, how is Splatterhouse rare? That's the same thing I ask, because everybody played that game. It's a great game. It's gory, it's bloody, it's over the top, it's ridiculous, and honestly, it's probably a game that most kids probably should have been playing when it came out. But it's polarizing, to say the least, and that's probably why at the time a lot of parents didn't buy this game for their kids, and you just had to go to your friend's house whose parents let you stay up too late, drink soda after 10, and basically turn into gremlins. Because that's what I did. That's how I played this game. Splatterhouse is awesome. It's a horror game. Like one of the first horror games out that was money. Anyway, if you can find this game now, or you have it, it's actually worth a decent, amount of money. 100 bucks, that's pretty good for an old crusty game, right? Moving on to a game that I didn't even play until I got my Marvel Arcade 1-up, and that's the classic side-scrolling beat-em-up, The Punisher. Now, you think, okay, The Punisher Arcade is incredible. That's true. But it was also ported to the Genesis and is now a fairly rare and expensive game. The Punisher is very similar to the arcade, yet somehow fails to take advantage of all the cool things the arcade did, and instead took them away, and you're left with like a shell of what The Punisher's about. But this game is valuable and hard to find. The Punisher is 90 bucks loose, $89 loose, and around 300 complete if you can get it complete in box. Since this was a port from an arcade, which was way more powerful back in the day than the consoles, it removed a ton of stuff. Games like TMNT worked great, even though the graphics were a major downgrade on the NES. It still kept the gameplay, even though the visuals were terrible. The gameplay and the actual mechanics behind it were still all there, which made it really, really fun. But this game obviously could not overcome that hump. And it had a ton of changes, including less enemies on screen, smaller variety of them, downgraded graphics and sound, which we kind of knew was going to happen, and not terrible, but it is one small thing. Many of the breakable objects that are in the game that you can throw your enemies against and break open are now unbreakable, so that's a big one. And the more violent and crazy scenes are toned down a ton, and they're censored. Nick Fury's cigar smoke? Come on. Nick Fury's cigar smoke is on point in the arcade, and they take that away, and then there's some scantily clad ninjas in the arcade that are now fully clothed. I'm not complaining, okay? But I'm just saying, they just censored a lot of stuff. They had different modes from easy to normal to hard. If you put on easy, you only got a few levels. So it didn't quite get the same fanfare that the arcade did. And because of that, it didn't really sell that well. Well, now, it's a little bit expensive. 90 bucks for just the cart, a few $100 for the game complete. It's asking a lot. But again, The Punisher is a great arcade game, and the Genesis version is probably worth playing, but good luck finding it. That's for sure. Next up is Zero, the Kamikaze Squirrel. Now, I could have put some other games on here because when you get down to this $100 range, there's a bunch of games there. But this is why I put Zero, the Kamikaze Squirrel. Loose, it's about 65 bucks. Nothing to write home about, nothing too crazy. Probably still a lot to pay for a Genesis game that's not the most amazing. But here's why I put it on here. Complete, it's 300 bucks? Really? The clamshell case and the booklet give you an extra couple $100 just in value? Like, really? Yeah, apparently. So Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel kind of fell in that whole furry mascot entity that was so popular in the early 90s, the whole 90s. The 80s and 90s is just full of furry Sonic. You got, Tails, you got Conker, you got Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong. There's tons of animals that were mascots for their game franchise, but poor Zero just didn't quite get the old liftoff he needed. The game isn't necessarily bad. It's not necessarily good either, but it's just one of those games that kind of got lost in the mediocrity of a ton of games being released at the time, and this one just kind of fell right in. So with that being said, it didn't get the love it needed to be successful, and now it's become somewhat of a collectible game on the Sega Genesis. And more than anything, if you have the booklet in the clamshell case, that's where the money is with this. And that's going to round out my 10th and final game on the Sega Genesis. Alright, ladies and gents, boys and girls, gamers of all ages, what do you think about the Sega Genesis games that are a little expensive? A couple holy grails starting off the list there, and then tapering into a few games that are probably a little more attainable if you can find them out and about. If you like these lists, let me know, because I'll go through a few more consoles, maybe hit a few handhelds. I always like doing research on these because as a gamer and a collector myself, I always like to know what to be on the lookout for if somehow miraculously Outback Joey falls in my lap at a local garage sale. Probably not going to happen, but you never know. A boy can dream. So with that, guys, thanks for hanging out. Subscribe if you like the content. Ring the notification icon. Give me a like or a dislike if you don't like it. Just something. Anything helps. All right, as always, keep trolling, keep rolling, and we'll see y'all next time.